Imagine a moonlit island, a quiet summer night, laughter echoing from a lakeside cottage. A political star takes the wheel. Fate intervenes. One innocent life is lost. A lifelong ambition is shattered. Tonight we revisit that night, the night of Chappaquiddick incident. Summer night on Chappaquiddick. It was July 18, 1969. On the isolated roads of Chappaquiddick Island, Massachusetts, a group of campaign aides gathered for a sailing regatta weekend. Among them, a well-known U.S. Senator, Ted Kennedy, still reeling from the death of his brother. He'd invited friends and returned staff of his brother's campaign, seeking calm and company. The night had the familiar warmth of old friendships, laughter over dinner, voices raised in stories of youthful idealism. The island is quiet. The roads are narrow. The summer breeze rustles through trees. At 11:15 p.m., Kennedy leaves the party with a young aide, Mary Jo Kopechne, heading for the ferry landing at Edgartown. The ferry cuts off at midnight. A wrong turn will cost everything. In the darkness, the route is unfamiliar. The group had finished its cheer. The night had shifted. A car door closes, engines start. The drive begins into the unknown. And as the minutes pass, the sense of ease gives way to a terrible inevitability. What looked like an escape from ambition becomes entangled in tragedy.
The wrong turn, the bridge.
The drive that night would take a lethal turn. Kennedy testified that he intended to go to the ferry landing in Edgartown, but shortly after departing the cottage, he made a right turn onto an unpaved path known as Dike Road, instead of staying on the main paved route. He described the moment as sudden. The car skidded, the bridge loomed, the headlights failed to illuminate what was ahead. In his version, he braked too late, lost control, and the vehicle launched over the side of the narrow two-lane Dike Bridge into Poucha Pond. The car flipped, nose first, then upside down, submerged in 6 to 8 feet of cold water. Kennedy managed to escape. Mary Jo did not. Eyewitnesses later challenged the timeline. A deputy sheriff claimed he saw a car matching Kennedy's license plate at 12:40 a.m., raising doubt about the official timeline. Critical questions hung heavy in the night air. Why was the car on that road at that hour? Why did the driver veer off the paved route? Did anyone else get in the vehicle? The scene on the pond was silent. Ripples in the water, the overturned car, the darkness of the island. A moment of decision became a moment of crisis.
Desperate rescue attempts.
Kennedy escaped the wreck. His voice haunted by shock, he described moments underwater in which hope lingered until it vanished. After exhausting himself, he retreated to the shore, walked back toward the cottage, past houses perched along the road, homes with phones, lights, people sleeping. He didn't use them. Instead, he returned to the cottage and quietly summoned 2 of his companions, his cousin, Joe Gargan, and attorney Paul Markham. They returned in a rented car to the crash scene, attempted to pull the young woman from the water, and failed. The tide and water currents played against them. The darkness closed in. And the decision that would haunt them all was made: to call authorities later. In the early morning hours, at approximately 2 a.m., Kennedy swam across the channel to Edgartown, changed clothes, and collapsed into a hotel bed. By then, more than 2 hours had passed since the crash. Every minute slipped into silence. Every decision weighed in the darkness. The rescue that might have saved a life became a moment where time became the enemy.
The 10-hour delay.
The wreck had happened. The body had still been inside the car underwater. The authorities were not yet notified. It would be nearly 10 hours before the public knew anything. At about 8 a.m., fishermen spotted the car's license plate from the shoreline. The cottage residents called in. The car was retrieved, Mary Jo's body recovered. Meanwhile, Kennedy was at the hotel, silent, making calls. He dialed 17 times, spoke with aides and lawyers, but did not call the police. The first police contact with Kennedy occurred at approximately 9:50 a.m. when he walked into the Edgartown station. The delay raised alarm. Time became the evidence. In testimony, Kennedy would describe a jumble of grief, fear, doubt, exhaustion, panic, confusion, and shock. He said his failure to report was indefensible. But critics and investigators asked, why the delay? Why not use a house 150 yards from the bridge with phone? Why call friends instead of first responders? The morning light found a scene already in motion. The island roads, the merged sirens, the press arrived. The political machine revved into gear. And a young woman's life ended in silence.
Legal and political fallout.
The legal wheels began to turn. On July 25th, just a week after the crash, Senator Kennedy appeared in court in Edgartown. He pleaded guilty to one count, leaving the scene of an accident causing bodily injury. The sentence, 2 months in jail, suspended. He escaped actual incarceration. The judge lamented that Kennedy has already been and will continue to be punished far beyond anything this court can impose. Meanwhile, a judicial inquest found probable cause that Kennedy operated negligently, possibly recklessly. Yet no manslaughter indictment was ever filed. A grand jury in April 1970 returned no indictment. His driver's license was suspended for 16 months. Politically, the damage was enormous. The once rising star of his party saw his presidential ambitions dim. His reputation for judgment and character cracked. Yet he remained in the U.S. Senate, a powerful presence even as whispers followed him wherever he went. The tragedy of that night extended beyond the water's edge. It reached into courtrooms, into the public square, into the heart of American politics.
Mary Jo Kopechne's life remembered.
Behind the headlines was Mary Jo Kopechne, age 28, a former campaign worker for Robert F. Kennedy, intelligent, dedicated, idealistic. On that night, she left the party with a senator, seeking only a ride back to her hotel. Her purse remained on the couch. She boarded the car, trusting the journey. The events that followed never gave her a voice in the public narrative the way her driver did. When divers recovered her body, they found her in the back seat, hands clasped, face turned upward into an air pocket, evidence suggesting she may have held on, hoping for rescue. A diver believed she may have lived in that pocket of trapped air for hours. Her death became a symbol not only of a political scandal, but of the cost borne by someone who never asked for publicity. Her family later accepted payment rather than a lawsuit, saying they did not want to appear as though they were chasing blood money. She is remembered not as a footnote, but as a life cut short, with questions unanswered.
The end of a presidential hope.
Before the accident, Ted Kennedy was widely seen as America's next president, the youngest Kennedy brother, full of promise, charismatic, ambitious. But the Chappaquiddick incident changed everything. The headlines called it the Kennedy curse all over again. Polls, which once supported his run for the White House in 1972 and 1976, turned cold. By 1980, when he attempted a challenge, his campaign stumbled. The memory of that summer night hung like a shadow. Political pundits asked, "Can we trust a man who waited 10 hours to report a crash? Who left a young woman underwater while he walked away?" The incident became a cautionary tale of power and privilege, and for the Kennedy dynasty, once cinematic, now wounded, it marked a turning point. The road from Hyannisport to the presidency ended in the water of a Massachusetts pond.
Legacy, mystery, and memory.
Today, more than 50 years later, the Chappaquiddick incident remains a haunting episode in American history. Details remain disputed. Was Kennedy drunk? Was there a third person in the car? Why the wrong turn? Why the delay? The bridge where it happened became a curiosity for tourists. Books, documentaries, and a 2017 film revisited the crash. Yet for many, the true story still feels incomplete. For Kennedy, his legacy would be twofold: a powerful senator who delivered landmark legislation, and a man whose judgment was questioned. For Mary Jo, her name is still spoken with reverence and regret. For history, the event is a stark reminder of how a single moment, a wrong turn, a flipped car, hours of silence, can detonate consequences far beyond the water's edge. The island remains silent, the bridge still standing. The truth waits in the shadows of memory.